Oh no, Big City Greens is the new Adventure Time. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episodes 29 and 30 of Big City Greens, the final two episodes of season 1. And you may be wondering a little bit about that cold open there. What do I mean by Big City Greens is the new Adventure Time? I started reacting to this season in 2022. Mind you, it was like the end of December 2022, but still. Like, even if you want to push forward and say, like, oh, the beginning of 2023, it's like, that's still over 2 years that I've been reacting to this series. That's still so long. Because I have it up here. I reacted to the first two episodes at the end of December 2022. This was before I was taking like the last week of December off, I guess. I had the first two episodes on December 20th and December 30th. And then I started back up again January 13th. And I continued on until February 20th, 2023. And I got up to episode 9 at that point. I came back to it with episode 10 in June of 2024. So that by that point, it had already been over a year off. February of 2023 to June of 2024. And then I continued that until August of 2024. I got to episode 18, so I did another 9 episodes. And then after that, we came back once again in July of this year, 2025. And we've been continuing since in order to finish the season. So we've gone through this 3 separate times. We've had 3 separate like viewing portions where we've taken breaks during it. But it's still been since 2022 overall that we've been reacting to this, and it's like it's just like Adventure Time. I reacted to Adventure Time for a decade, technically speaking. But yes, there were a bunch of breaks, and there was even a point where I dropped it in there for a time. And yeah, it's like that definitely adds to it. But still, oh, the problem is, while I don't want this to become another Adventure Time, I feel like this is just the kind of show that's going to be. It's the kind of show that's going to be just, I'm not going to be able to get to it. There's just too many shows to react to, and I'm not going to be able to get to it like more consistently, more like just quickly than that. Because it's already got like what, 4 seasons in a movie? It's like, that's insane. I still stand by that shows do not need to have this many seasons these days, especially episodic shows. Because there's just not that much you can do before you just start repeating yourself. Like, Simpsons should not be still going, I'll tell you that much. The Simpsons should have been, like, finished a long time ago. Because they're just repeating things. Or, you know, making content to, like, be relevant to today's culture. Which is fine, but you don't need to have an entire, like, full multiple seasons still going to do that. You could end the main series and just relegate the rest to like occasional like yearly specials or something. It feels like it's too much. Adventure Time got around this by creating more serialized stories. That was Adventure Time's big positive in terms of its length. It created more serialized stories that allowed it to tell more rather than just having the same plots recycled over and over. And that allowed it to honestly get better as it went along, which for having 10 seasons is saying something. But not every show is like that. And I don't expect every episodic show like this to be the next Adventure Time. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy the shows. Because I've been enjoying Big City Greens a lot. There's a lot of enjoyable episodes, a lot of enjoyable moments, and I still await the big episodes that like really focus on character story elements that are the most fascinating, most interesting, most exciting, which at this point mostly involves Gloria, but also has involved like the mom and other stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I want. And now we're here at the finale, and that begs the question, are we going to get something like that here? I'm not saying it has to be like this big thing that's starting this like ongoing narrative, but are we going to get something that feels like a finale, that feels like it's like this big deal, rather than just your everyday normal slice of life stuff? I expect episode 29 will be the more slice of lifey for obvious reasons, but then I'm hoping that episode 30 takes a more serious turn and focuses more on some bigger picture. Because I feel like this is a show that needs that at this point. I feel like it's a show that, like, it needs to be, like, kind of brought back into the excitement and the intensity and the emotion. Because it's like, it's something that it's been sorely missing. And I mean, I know I'm a specific like type of viewer of these kinds of shows. I know that I prefer serialized stuff. I know that I tend to like the episodes that focus more on heavier stuff rather than like goofy little childish shenanigans. And I know that's a me thing. And I understand that not everybody's going to be like that. Some people like the childish shenanigans because it's fun and it reminds you of like the time when things weren't so complicated. And that's fine. That's great. I always say it here on the channel, but I don't expect everyone to agree with my findings. When I'm like talking about what I think about an episode, I'm just sharing my opinion. I don't expect you all to agree. I mean, hell, I'll give you an example right now. Me and one of my most consistent viewers, Venom, has a notable disagreement regarding a character's actions in the series My Adventures with Superman. I know, not maybe the most relevant here, but it's relevant in terms of the idea here. We have a notable disagreement there. I'll leave it at that, as to not spark this up again, but it's something that we just will not see eye to eye on. We're both kind of stubborn, it seems, in that way, and we're both very like set on our view on that that portion of the series. And we have debated this, we have argued this, and we've kind of come to the conclusion that we just have very different views on it. And that's fine. It's not like that big of a deal. We just view it differently. And I know I tend to view things a lot differently than most people in a lot of cases when it comes to a lot of media. I mean, I don't like Arcane. And do you know how popular that is? There's a lot of stuff that's really popular that I don't like. Cyberpunk Edge Runners, Code Geass, Peacemaker. So many things that are like super popular and I just do not like or even can't stand. But that's the beauty of humanity and the beauty of media. You're not always going to like everything. And you're not always going to like everything the same way and for the same reasons. Someone might like a show or movie for a very personal reason, while another person just likes it because it's fun. And both reasons are entirely valid. All perspectives are valid. And everyone can think what they wish or what they think about a show or a movie or a game or whatever else. It's really not that serious that we have to start fights about it. The debate is fine, but we don't need to fight about it because it's just personal opinion. It's a subjective metric in the first place. So, yeah. But I'm saying all this because, like I said, what I look for in this series is the big, important, emotional stuff. The things that like really delve into the characters, like character and their depth and their backstory. And that's the kind of stuff I would love to see this series focus on. But there's other people who would love just to see it continue as it is and see the childish shenanigans. And that's fine. Both sides are valid. And I don't dislike the childish shenanigans. I enjoy them. Well, depends on the episode, depends on the subject, I guess, but, you know. I have no problem with the episodic stuff. It's just, I prefer serialized. And in the end, it just kind of depends on the episode and the segment and all. So, yeah. I am still definitely a fan of this series. It's still got a lot of charm and wit to it, which is always good. It's got some good VAs, some good messages, some really good comedy. And so it's like, I wanted to mention here, I said last week I didn't know what I was like going to do about the future of this. I wasn't like, I was going to more than likely continue it and everything, but like, I guess the way I like was talking about it and the things I was saying was like making it seem like I was questioning continuing it more than I actually was. And that's on me. I worded it that way. I made it come across that way. That's entirely on me. But I do plan on continuing it. I just want to like specify that here. I just don't know when it's going to be at the moment. It's one of those things to where it's like I do need this break. Because even though I've taken multiple breaks throughout this season and everything, episodic shows tend to take a little bit more out of me sometimes. Um, and like I said, I prefer serialized. And yeah, there's a lot of shows out there that have gone from more episodic in the first season to more serialized later on. Owl House, Amphibia, Ghost and Molly McGee, etc., etc. But this is a series that I think is going to remain more episodic. One, I think I'd been told that before. Two, I just think that that's the kind of vibe this show gives off. I don't think it's going to really change the status quo with that. Of course, I could be wrong. And boy, howdy, would I be happy to be wrong there. But we'll see. Just don't spoil me on it at this point. Like I said, I was already kind of told this, like, when I first started this series out. But I don't know, like, how true that is. I don't know, like, how, like, accurate that is. It might be just like, oh, that person's experience, they see it as still that way because it's not like the Owl House or something like that in terms of serialization. But I don't know. We'll see. Just no spoilers as always. But all of that being said, I think we should get into these final two episodes and see what we have in store for these 4 segments that we're going to get this time. Or maybe 3 if the last one is a double or a full length one. I don't know actually. But let's get on with this. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I was talking in the pre-thoughts about, not necessarily wanting, but wondering if the final episode was, going to, touch on, something a little bigger, something a little more serious. And it almost did, but it didn't quite get there for me. It was still very just generically slice-of-life-y. But it had the potential to be better. And there's two ways I think that it could have been better. First, there's the just simple way of switching the segments for the last episode here, episode 30. Cricket's Place would have been a better segment to leave off on than Volunteer Tilly. Not that Volunteer Tilly was bad, but Cricket's Place would make more sense as the final segment to a season. Especially the first season. It's like, okay, we're not going to have too much going on here. But it would make more sense. Cricket, trying to move out, run away from home, all that jazz, would work so much better to be the final segment of the series than to be the penultimate. Volunteer Tilly makes no sense as a final segment. It just does not make sense. It doesn't feel finite. It doesn't feel special. It doesn't feel like anything different than any other segment throughout this season. But Cricket's Place kind of does. And so again, they could have switched that around and it would have been good. But they could have also gone a step beyond and just made the entire last episode Cricket's Place. Have it be a double length segment, a full episode segment instead, and have it really delve a lot more into this. Because there's definitely a lot more they could do with this concept, and they could have definitely stretched it out even further. I really feel like they just went for the most basic aspect of it. With Cricket not wanting to do chores, and because of it, the apartment ends up getting out of hand and wrecked and everything. Not just messy, but destroyed. And it's just they could have done more with that. It's not bad as it is, it's just they could have done more. And I feel like a full segment for the final episode of the season would have been a really good way to handle that. But either of those solutions, I think, would have made it a better finale. So, as it was just a little disappointing. But let's actually talk about each of these segments, as they are now. So the first of these, of episode 29, the first segment was Skunked. We got to see quite a bit of Gloria in this, which is always good. My favorite character. But it was a very simple message kind of episode where it's yeah, you do good for the sake of doing good for its own reward rather than expecting something in return. It's a message that it's another one of those episode segments where it's yeah, this is a message for the kids. Though ironically enough, there are plenty of adults who could learn that. But yeah, it's a message for the kids. It's meant to teach them, the right thing to do. It's definitely one of those episodes, one of those segments where it's not too much more than that. Even the concept of getting skunked is just a very simple, basic concept. It fits with this show, but it's nothing absolutely special, But the episode is presented in such a fun way that even if it's pretty simplistic, I really enjoyed it. I thought this segment was a lot of fun. Um, there's some things that I question, like why is the eerily chipper cop also part of animal control? Like, I don't think that's how that works. Um, but yeah, it's fine. And I was expecting during the segment Mark was going to end up not being as perfect as he seems, but no, he was just perfect. He was just like, like a really good guy. The thing is, I'm used to shows doing that where it's like, oh, we introduce someone who seems perfect, but then you find out more about them and it's like, oh no, they're either the person setting all this up to fix in the first place, or they're just an absolute mess of a person and this is just the only thing people ever see of them. Stuff like that. But no, he was just perfect. Um Kind of boring, but okay. But yeah, the segment as a whole, I did enjoy. It's not my favorite, but I still had fun with it. And then we had the second one of episode 29, Axon Saxon, where Saxon is accidentally killed by Nancy, and she kind of lies about it the entire time while making Tilly think it was Grandma Alice. And it eventually leads to shenanigans with Tilly trying to get back at her grandmother. All while the boys go on a fishing trip, which not really that important. Um Again, it's one of those lesson ones where it's like trying to teach kids, it's like, "Oh, be honest." And it's interesting that it's actually teaching this through Nancy. Because this actually makes this pretty unique. Most shows that do this kind of message, excuse me, I knew that was coming. Most shows that try to do this message will teach it through the child character because you want the kids watching to relate to this character. And so they're going to teach the message through them so that the kids will get it easier. But here you're teaching it through an adult character who technically should already know this. And again, she was trying to come clean. She just was failing because Tilly, was getting out of hand. But she tried to come clean. You can't say she was intentionally hiding it. It just kind of happened. And she was afraid to admit it because she didn't want Tilly to not love her anymore. But, in the end, it was like a really, really crazy episode in terms of how far Tilly was willing to go. It did end on a really good joke, too, with the swordfish joke. So I can appreciate that. But yeah, it's just interesting to me that this message was being told through an adult character. You just don't see that a lot. I don't remember if they did this message in My Little Pony, because the main characters in that are adults, unless they did it with the CMC. I don't know offhand. But we then move on to 30. So let's talk about Cricket's Place. The one I thought should have been the final segment rather than the penultimate. So Cricket runs away from home, and he and Remy end up somehow, like because money, I guess, basically, renting an apartment. And the entire thing is about Cricket basically destroying this apartment until he just gives up and comes home and does the chores that he doesn't want to do anyway. So, story time. Like a lot of kids, I would even say possibly most kids, when I was a kid, I ran away from home. A couple times. But there's one time that I will never forget. And I don't know entirely why. I don't know if it's just like, for some reason, super memorable to me. But I even remember the house I was living in at the time. And for whatever reason, the only one of the few things I can't remember about it is why I ran away. But for whatever reason, I was upset at my parents and I ran away. And my instinct was to go to a friend's house. And I told that friend, and I told the friend's parents that I asked if I could like spend the night over there and everything. And my parents said yes, and so I was asking them if I could spend the night there. And they they said no. I was rejected from being able to spend the night there. There was probably a reason, I just don't remember. But I then just wandered basically in the neighborhood area and just kind of like tried to hide out in people's backyards and stuff because I had seen my parents' car driving around. They were looking for me. So I was like hiding in people's backyards and behind their houses and stuff. And like refusing to come home and all. I was eventually caught. I don't remember exactly what happened to get caught, but I was eventually caught, and yeah, I was punished, of course. But it's just something that I, for some reason, remember like that specific instance of running away. And the thing is, like I said, the pretty much the entire time I was just like hiding from them. I wasn't actually enjoying being away from the house or anything. It didn't really amount to much of anything. And here we see like Cricket is able to throw this party, but the aftermath ends up ruining his entire like dream situation. Remy ends up leaving because he can't handle just not having the cleanliness and the level of control and whatnot. It's too chaotic for him. So he calls Vasquez and ends up leaving. The apartment gets dirtier and messier, and Cricket accidentally bursts a pipe, and it becomes overwhelming to the point where it's not fun for him anymore. He's having trouble like keeping things together. Eventually, the entire apartment pretty much is destroyed, with the floor giving way to the apartment underneath, which is the guy we saw in the past, the one who has the cat, and Tilly liked the cat. But yeah, we get to see him and the cat again, so that's fun. But in the end, Cricket realizes that he misses home. And also during the entire episode, you have Bill like really getting like progressively sadder about Cricket not being there and missing him like so much. And it's like when he's writing that letter at the end, it's like, this is actually really fucking sad. It's like, you're gonna get me emotional over Bill missing Cricket like this, and it's just like, oh, okay, sure. But that also kind of like makes it feel like it should have been the final segment rather than the second to last. It just feels weird that there's another segment after this for the season, because this really feels like it should have been the final one. Especially with the added stuff with like Bill missing him and being like big sad over it. It's like, it really feels like it should have been the last segment. But instead, our last segment is Volunteer Tilly. Tilly volunteers at an animal shelter, gets too attached to the animals, refuses to adopt them out, and tries to take them back to her place. Chaos ensues, nothing works out, and she has to learn to let go of the animals for their own sake and, to make other people happy. That's the episode. That's the segment. There's not really anything else to talk about. It's super straightforward and basic, and it's fun. It's nice. Getting to see all these different animal designs, Cricket and Grandma Alice pranking Bill, and then getting their comeuppance from the Chihuahua. It's like, okay, neat, fun, big Chihuahua energy. There's not much to it. It's so simplistic. It's so basic. It's such a like boring segment. And not that it's not boring as in it's bad. It's boring as in it doesn't do anything with its concept. It's like, oh, we have this concept of Tilly helping out in an animal shelter. Let's just take the most basic possible route with it and not even try to get creative or interesting at all. It just feels so safe. I think that's a good way to put it. It feels so safe, like they didn't want to take any risks with it. And for being the final segment of the season, that feels very disappointing. And again, it's not a bad segment. I want to make that clear. Like, the segment as it is not bad. It's just too bland and safe and disappointing. And it's because it's the final segment that it's as disappointing as it is. Again, if you had switched Volunteer Tilly and Cricket's Place around so that Cricket's Place was the final segment, would have been fine. This would have worked as any other segment in this season. But the final segment of the entire season, no, does not work. It just does not work as a final segment. And it's just like the Skunked episode, in the fact that you also have another well, in this case, family of characters who are just like so aggressively perfect that they're just creepy, and it's like they can't just be perfect. But no, they are. They're just perfect. There's no secrets to it. There's no like surprise they're actually bad people or anything. No. And it's like, this is the second time in 2 episodes that they've done that. And it's like, why? Is that the joke? Is that what you're like trying to make a joke out of? That they are just actually that perfect? Because it's not really a joke. You're not really accomplishing anything with that. It just feels, again, safe and boring. I'm not saying they had to be like psychopaths or anything, but you know, having some skeletons in their closet or having some imperfections here and there would have been a little more interesting, at least. I don't know. I just feel like none of these segments were bad, but none of them blew me away either. I would say the best of them was Skunked, weirdly enough. It was the most entertained and the most enjoyable I found any of them to be. I would say the worst is probably Volunteer Tilly, and again, specifically because of its placement. It just does not work at all as a final segment to the season. And it hurts the segment in and of itself because of that. So, yeah, I just feel like this could have been done better, but maybe future seasons will accomplish that. It just, maybe because it's the first season, they didn't want to like really try to throw anything major in, especially when they already had the big reveal of Nancy and everything previously in the season. Like, honestly, if they had saved Nancy's return until the end of the season and had that be like the finale, I wouldn't have been disappointed with that. Though I don't mind that being more of like a mid-season finale and having Nancy like start to become more of a character in the second half of this season. I don't mind that. But yeah, it's like that would have been a better like final segment than what we actually got here. I just feel like it just played it way too safe. And again, I want to make it very clear, I'm not saying any of these segments were bad. I'm not saying that either of these two episodes were bad episodes. They're just not as, like, they don't feel like a finale because of how they're set up. And the segments themselves play it way too safe for my personal tastes. So I just feel like it just could be better. They're good, but they could be better. But yeah, out of them, Skunked was my favorite. And like I said, it wasn't even just because of Gloria having a notable role in it. Like, I just found it more entertaining than the others. I just found it more interesting, more unique. Even for its basic premise. And I just was more, invested in what was happening, weirdly enough. I just enjoyed it the most. It's really that simple. It really just comes down to something that simple. But if I had to put them in like full order, I would say Skunked is my favorite, probably followed by Cricket's Place, I would say, and then Axon Saxon and Volunteer Tilly. And again, Cricket's Place would probably be number one if it were the final segment. Because it would work so much better that way. But nonetheless, tell me what you thought of these final episodes, these final segments of Big City Green Season 1. And that leads us into replacing this. That leads us into the fact that now that we are done with this, we need a new show for Tuesdays. And like I had said in the past, I said it was something else. I think it was Hikaru Died yesterday. I mentioned it, that I had already figured out what the replacements for this week's shows that were supposed to be ending are. Big City Greens needs to be replaced, and I've been thinking about what could replace it, and I did already figure it out, and it's because of you guys, actually. See, I held a poll, and Buddy Daddies won that poll. But I then had a couple of people vocally show support for one of the other entries on that poll. Despite Buddy Daddies being the one with the most votes and winning, and that's what got the Wednesday slot, there was one other show that did still get vocal attention. And people openly admitted to being their vote and actively, wished it had been chosen instead. So we're just going to get to it now. And so the next Tuesday show is Dragon Age Absolution. That will start right away next week during the end of the week or end of the month movie week. That's going to start on Tuesday alongside that all. And yeah, I've been playing through Dragon Age, the Veilguard, my first ever actual playthrough of a Dragon Age game. And so I've been very much enjoying that. And so I know a little bit of lore of the Dragon Age world and stuff, and I think that'll help me enjoy Absolution even more. Now, Absolution is a 6-episode series, so it's not long. And I don't know what the story's about at all, but I will talk more about that next week when we get to the first episode. It's a shorter series, and I thought it was just a fun idea to bring here because a couple of you specifically mentioned you wanted that one, and that's the one you had voted for back in the poll. So that's what we're going to get to. And then after that, after those 5 or 6 weeks are done, we'll figure something else out then. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Tell me your thoughts, like I said, on these final 2 episodes of Big City Green Season 1. And like I said, we will be back with Season 2 in the future. We are continuing this. I just don't know when it's going to end up being. It's just kind of up in the air now. I don't want this to become the new Adventure Time, but it might. But we will definitely get back to this in the future, and we'll see how it goes at that point. For now, though, thank you all so much as always for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See you all next time.